Spring in Oregon. It's time to think about the wine tastings, the combination of sweatshirt and shorts for a man of my particular age demographic, and more importantly, what are we going to do with this thing we keep referring to as a murder cottage? Hey, welcome back to NerdSteading. Yes, the murder cottage. It's been referenced in some of our earlier videos, but never really fully explained. When we bought the property in 2019, it came with the house, which we had re-sided, painted, some other improvements done too. We had the barn, which needed quite a bit of work, but that got re-roofed. The workshop, it's a whole thing. There's a whole bunch of videos about the workshop. Yeah, we did a lot of work here, but then there's this building behind me. So we call it the murder cottage because it used to live next to the murder tree, which is now removed. It's called the murder tree because it would drop limbs, and we always thought one day it was going to kill our power line. So we got rid of the tree. But the cottage behind us, possibly not permitted. I'll get to that in a few minutes. And it's just not in great shape, as we will explore further in this introductory video. But the cottage itself is fine. It's about 680 square feet, metal roof, remnants of a wood stove. It's got plumbing, a toilet, a shower, a bedroom. It looks like it might have been like a carport or something, and then turned into this living space, which apparently at some point in its history was trashed by teenagers because, I mean, I guess that's what the neighbors told me. I don't really know. What I do know is that it needs some tender loving care, and because during the pandemic, Oregon changed the laws around accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. We can actually now turn this into a proper guest cottage and studio space for my videos and my drum things, because I don't have a place in the current house to put up my drums, and if I put them in the barn, they're kind of echoey and loud, and the horses get mad. So we're not going to do that. All right, first an exterior tour, and then we go inside. All right, this particular shade of utility brown is what the color of the house used to be before we had it resided and repainted. The swaths of color were us testing out paint samples for the color on the house. So we did that. There are windows. Some of them are in better shape than others. This one's held together by tape and, I don't know, hope. Going around the outside, a decent sized panel window over here. There's the Chartist chicken coop, different project, different video. Some bits of pottery and rocks and things. The back of the house, a couple of decent sized windows, a sliding door which doesn't close all the way, and a lot of cleanup from the branches on these trees, and that's metal roofing that you see off in the distance. So it's kind of like this all the way around. It's, you know, the metal roof needs some help. The structure seems okay, but the siding choices, you can tell the siding's not consistent. This exterior side is more like T111, where this is just some sort of lap siding run in very interesting ways. Standard exterior door. I'll have to move the shed for the fuel. That window needs some help. The overlaps in the siding are interesting because you normally wouldn't do it this way on the seams. The plumbing stack, we had this scoped. It actually does go to the septic tank. And gutters, and no windows on this side. This is a wet wall. And it looks like this is probably where power comes in from the barn. There is a vent here. Yes, they did put in plumbing and laundry service. And yeah, that's a PVC pipe. And some, I'm hoping, low voltage power, question mark. We gotta talk about some of that stuff. One of the things we discovered about Ye Olde Scary Murder Cottage is that when it was built, a lot of the plumbing and electrical is essentially daisy chained off the barn. So there's a 100 amp service in the barn's 200 amp total panel that goes over to this structure. And the plumbing, we found out by accident, was chained off of a 3/4 inch PVC pipe that's run underground to the cottage, and it came off of a leaky faucet on the outside of the barn. And that's how we found out that we accidentally cut the water to this entire structure, because we replaced one faucet in the barn and didn't think anything was below it. We'll just cut this faucet off. What harm can it do?
What harm can it do?
I'm not daisy chaining an entire guest cottage structure off of a 3/4 inch pipe coming from the wackiness of the barn plumbing. We've tested that there's no asbestos in the building, and we've had a structural engineer come out and confirm that the foundation is solid enough to continue building on. So that means all we gotta do is clean it out, strip it down to the studs, and start replacing the bits we don't like and change the floor layout. You know, no big deal, right? Yeah, it's gonna be kind of a big deal. I've got a mask, because it smells in there. I got some gloves, got some safety goggles. Let's explore. Time to see what's inside. We were using it to store like scrap cardboard, the old air conditioner. That stuff's gotta go. That is our first indication there's a bit of a leak in the roof. But it's a decent sized space with a couple of odd paneling choices. This metal in the corner is where the wood stove was, so that's probably gonna end up getting, I don't know, scrapped. I don't know if I've got a use for a giant plate of steel or not. Classic electrical outlets, some questionable fashion choices on the curtains, but whatever. As we look around the place, we bought a couple of things, pedestal sink and a light fixture that we ended up getting on sale and at an auction. So we're gonna use that. We've got kind of a half wall here dividing the two spaces. This is why I think this was a carport before. See the lip that comes up? So this is, looks like concrete that's, you know, cut down into a lip. So I think that this side was probably a single car carport and then an attached storage building, and they renovated it back into some kind of cottage type structure. You can see definite difference in mentality on siding materials. Somebody switched sides through this and decided that, hey, plywood gives way to, I don't know, some kind of shiplap that has another siding on it. It's strange. More signs. The ceiling has issues. This door, bit of a gap. A lot of the damage here is stuff that looks like it's blown in through the gap in the door, or a time when the door wasn't closed. They ran some kind of low voltage cabling for like satellite or phone or something in here. This is the kitchen, such as it is. It's not bad, honestly. We'll probably end up taking this counter out and opening this space up. I don't think I need a full kitchen in this place, but maybe like a full countertop across. Since it's just a guest space, I'm thinking we're not gonna do like a full range setup, and we probably won't even have the dishwasher. It might be more of a sink, countertop, maybe a range hood so we can put it in something like an, I don't know, an induction burner or an air fryer or something. Decent microwave. Not sure if we want to open this up or do more shelving across the wall. The wall along the edge, this is going to be a divided space, and I'll explain that later. And then we get into the bathroom, which is, for a structure this size, kind of small and large all at the same time. It's large because it has enough room for, yes, ladies and gents, that is a washer-dryer hookup, and including a plumbing stack there as well for getting the drainage out, and that's the vent we saw on the outside. But it's also small because it has like the space over here, which was a water heater. So they kind of combined a utility room and a bathroom, which is why it's a big space, but also smallish at the same time. Again, some ceiling issues. That is an interesting choice of material, using that plastic wrap up here. It's kind of wooden siding. So you've got a standard kind of stand-up shower situation, toilet and sink, and water heater. The panel is back here, which is not super accessible, but it's not a terrible panel, honestly. Like, it's got its own utility shut off and all the breakers, and it's turned off from the other side in the barn where it feeds from. All right, bedroom. Oh yeah, this is the space where the fridge was, and it looks like that there might have been, I don't know if they ran a water line over here, but there's quite a bit of damage on the floor, and I don't know if this is just ants getting in here or if there was a problem, say, with a utility water line for like an ice maker on the fridge. But this is probably gonna get removed. Bedroom is decent size. It's got a good sized closet, but you can see where there's quite a bit of damage at the base here. Probably water running inside the wall. Some gaps in the shelving. So it was definitely usable, but not fancy. Yeah, and trim, again, with the damage around the outside edge. It might be water seeping up the edge. It might be coming down the ceiling. It's really hard to tell, but again, there's bits of water coming in from all over the place. All right, time to go out into the fresh air and discuss our plans for the future. Yeah, wearing the mask in there was intentional. It's a bit musty, as you can probably tell from all the water that's intruded into the space. Quite a bit of water where there shouldn't be water in this structure. All right, so what do we want to do with this? Well, as much as I love an open concept, this is kind of a space where a completely open concept doesn't work because of what I want to do with it, which is two functions. One is the space that's on, as you come in to the left of the door, I want that to be an apartment space. Essentially have a guest cottage from when family or friends come and visit. So that means that the place where the fridge is, that closet, and that dividing wall between the bedroom and the main living space are going to go away. So what you end up with is a quasi-open concept apartment on that side, which is going to be the majority of the space. So 400-ish square feet. We haven't quite run the numbers on it yet. That'll be big enough for a king-size bed. We'll have an armoire, some other furniture in there versus closets. We'll still have a big set of doors on the back. Instead of a sliding door, I want to go with French doors, a large window, and then extend that dividing wall that's currently between the kitchen so that it takes up that entire, that lip, that raised part of the floor where we thought there might have been a carport coming into a storage area. Because on this side of what we will still refer to as the Scary Murder Cottage until it's finished, what I really want to do is set up a studio for the drums and have a little bit of recording space for videos like this, for viewers like you. So keep that stuff out of the house, and I shoot in the workshop a lot just because it's a space where I've got peace and quiet and no cats and a lot of room to move around. I wouldn't mind having that over here. So that means that our entry door is still going to remain the entry door, but that wall is going to be set up as a sound dampening wall. We'll talk about how to build that out. There'll be soft fabrics on the studio side, so carpeting, something softish on the wall, either a full soft covering or a wood wall with like soft panels to dampen the sound, a full 6-piece drum set, some other recording gear, and a walk-in lights and camera ready video setup. Then the other side of the wall, there'll be some cable pass-throughs in case I need to do like a studio desk or something on the quiet side. And then we'll end up opening that up as a small kitchenette. We'll put in a water heater. We'll keep a similar shower and sink and toilet system. If the plumbing's good, I want to use the drains as they are. And if it's not, then I'm probably going to be a sad boy with a jackhammer trying to figure out how to fix that in the concrete. I really don't want to be a sad boy with a jackhammer. Just saying, I would like to use those drains as much as possible. So that's going to give it more of a studio apartment feel. The bathroom would be closed off, everything else would be open to itself. Big door in between the studio space and the living space. Back door, which will be the main access on this side. We had talked about putting in 2 front doors over here. Honestly, just eats up a lot of space. So you'll get into the studio through this door. You can pass between the two through a exterior grade door, cut down the sound as well. And then on the back side, you can walk around the other side of the cottage where we've got the truck parked right now and go into the back door if you don't want to disturb anyone who's in the studio, or for whatever reason I'm making noise and you don't want to be any part of it. Just go in, hang out in the nice space with a king bed and some fancy furniture. Now, of course, you've seen what we did with the workshop. If you haven't, links somewhere around my face to tell you how to get to those workshop videos. This is going to start with a lot of demolition, which is honestly the most fun for people who don't actually have to stick around and do the rest of the work. So at some point, we're going to rip out the carpet, rip out all their questionable flooring decisions. That goes in the dumpster. We start excavating into the walls, figuring out what the structure looks like, poke a hole in the ceiling, see what the roof looks like. I have no idea. Is this a truss? Is it stick built? No clue. We've already spent quite a bit on permits. It's a thing, y'all. I know, government, whatever, but honestly, get your permit so you don't run into trouble down the road when you want to, like, I don't know, sell the place and there's structures on the property that you can't count as livable because you didn't feel like filling out a form 10 years ago. It's a bad place to be. Also, when your wife works for the county permitting office, you might want to get a permit, but that also opens you up to all of their expertise and advice. Some of those folks are going to come out and give me opinions on what the structure looks like, what I need to augment to hit the building codes. Really, all in all, I consider that a positive, not a negative. Professionals will be called for the electrical. I want a consult on daisy chain this sucker off of a barn. Is that cool? Is 100 watts enough to run the whole thing? We're going to do a mini split for the heating because that seems like the best way to get heating and air conditioning in a small space economically. But I want to make sure I'm not using more than a 100-watt panel is going to consume. I don't need this to be like as fancy. I've got laundry over here. It's not an Airbnb. I'm not renting this out to people. It's an extension of the house. It's my personal space for recording and for my friends and family to hang out in and have a nice, comfy bedroom when they come and stay up in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. All right, I think it's time to get some work done. I found the disgusting drawer. That is a quantity of ants that I was not anticipating. Well, good luck. I'm gonna go back and work on the bathroom. Trying to figure out if the shower's wider than the door. I think the shower's wider than the door. It's a solvable problem. Can't fucking believe it.